Hello and welcome to the Capital Market on Channels Television. I'm Edidiong Iwang. Well, let's get the show started with some market numbers now, where the bears continue to dictate proceedings in the local bus as the market suffered its fifth consecutive weekly loss amid growing concerns about the direction of yield in the fixed income market. The all-share index declined by 1.18% week on week. That's the largest weekly loss in 2021 so far, to close at 39,331.61 points. Now, that brought the year-to-date return further into the negative territory at minus 2.3%. Activity levels were stronger this week as trading volume and value rose by 8.4% and 44.0% week on week, respectively. Now, sell-offs in bellwether stocks, Nestle, Flour Mill, Nigerian breweries, and MTN Nigeria drove the weekly loss. The sectoral performance was broadly negative as the industrial goods index emerged as the week saw gainer, rising 1.39%. The consumer goods index led the losers chart, followed by insurance, oil and gas, and banking sectors. Away from market numbers now, studies show that capital market literacy is surprisingly low, not just in Nigeria, but in advanced economies of the world. Now, in order to bridge that literacy gap in the country and build investor base, the Securities and Exchange Commission in 2014 set up a committee to look into literacy in Nigeria's capital market and then drew up a 10-year capital market master plan. How much of this has been achieved and what more needs to be done? Toyin Sonny, the CEO of Emerging Africa Capital and the chairperson of the Capital Market Literacy Committee, and Professor Uche Waleke, a professor of capital markets and the president of Capital Market Academics of Nigeria, join us now to shed more light on this. Good evening. Thank you for joining us on the program.
Thank you for having us. Good evening.
Well, Mr. Sonny, I'd just like to start with you now. There's no doubt that capital market literacy will boost retail investors' participation in the capital market. At a time where the current 10-year capital market master plan was put together a few years ago, capital market literacy rate in the country was estimated at 16%. Now, the plan targets 40% by 2025. As the chairperson of the Capital Market Literacy Committee, what is the current status of market literacy in Nigeria?
Thank you once again for having me, and good evening, everyone. I would like to start by totally agreeing with you that the goal to increase market literacy is critical. And when we talk about market literacy, we need to explain that market literacy is a subset of the entire financial literacy. And so we cannot grow capital market literacy if we don't first grow financial literacy. So our approach has been to collaborate with all the major players across the entire financial services sector so that we can together grow financial literacy. Now, another thing that we need to have at the back of our minds that the performance of our market is driven not just by the level of literacy, but it is also driven by a lot of critical factors. One of them is the overall health and the performance of the economy itself, which affects the performance of the underlying securities in the market. As you are aware, in the last 5 years, we have had 2 recessions now. And so that has been, first of all, a drawback in terms of interest in the market. Another thing we need to know is that the stability of the market itself, in terms of absence of volatility, is also a critical factor. And of course, at the end of the day, the professionalism and the reliability of the operators in the market. Be that as it may, there are clear indications that market literacy and automatically retail participation in the market is increasing. And I'll give you 1 or 2 statistics. As of 2015, there were 53 registered mutual funds in Nigeria. By the end of 2020, there were precisely 106 registered mutual funds. That means the number of mutual funds has doubled during that period. Now, mutual funds are the vehicles by which the retail market ideally accesses the capital market. So that is one of the indices that shows that whilst we're not where we want to be in terms of literacy, but definitely there's a much broader reach towards the retail market. Another thing that we will see is the size also, the size of the market within these mutual funds, which has also doubled within the period. So I would like to start with that and say that the literacy message is getting across, the pen is dropping to the retail investors, and the retail investors are responding accordingly. Thank you.
Well, Prof, I'd just like to put this next question to you. The academic community is an important channel for capital market literacy. Now, as the president of the Capital Market Academics of Nigeria, let me start by asking, what is the level of capital market literacy in educational institutions in Nigeria?
Yeah, thank you, Edidion, for inviting me. Let me say that it's low. It's quite low. My colleagues in academia will agree with me. Or how else do you explain a situation where you assemble, say, 10 students, 10 students into an office, and you're asking them questions in relation to the capital market, basic questions. And you find that many of them can't distinguish between equities and bonds. Many of them don't know the difference between the Securities and Exchange Commission, for example, and the Nigerian Stock Exchange. They keep confusing the two. Many don't know that there's something called the Investment and Securities Tribunal. I'm not even talking about the advanced products, just the basic ones. And then you find this display of ignorance or lack of awareness, I would say. And in your earlier report, you were just talking about the market now being dominated by bears. You used the term bears. You talked about the all-share index, dropping. You talked about market cap. You used so many other terms. And I was just wondering, a typical student in a Nigerian university listening to you, all the things you were saying, will that make sense to to him or her? So that gives you the idea that in the tertiary education system, that's where I work, so I want to speak for the universities in particular, that the level of awareness of capital market literacy is quite low. And of course, capital market literacy has to do with the education and awareness of capital market products, processes, institutions, and the participants. And I must tell you, Edido, that level of awareness is quite low. In spite of the fact that you have pockets of institutions, teaching capital market studies, but the message hasn't really, gone out there. So I would say I was listening to the chairperson of the Capital Market Literacy, committee a while ago. They have done a lot. They have done so much in terms of, literacy. There's no doubt about that. But of course, a lot still needs to be done, especially at the level of tertiary institutions.
Well, hopefully, we see more of that being done. I'd like to throw this question to you, Mr. Sonny. Apart from workshops and seminars, what other strategies are being adopted by your committee to enhance market literacy?
Thank you. We actually adopt a wide range of approaches. And one of the things that I wanted to quickly chip in that would also show that whilst we have not reached the target, but there is growth in terms of the response of the retail market, is I wanted to mention that whilst as at 2015, the proportion of retail markets contribution to the equities to participation in equities was 21.8%. Now, as at the end of 2020, it's grown to 29%. So we're seeing the responses. Now, in terms of what we have adopted, and very relevant to the times we find ourselves, is the deployment of digital technology campaign across all social media. So the Technical Committee on Financial Literacy is present on all the social media platforms and daily puts out information to support market literacy. Secondly, in the past, we have had school quizzes across all geopolitical zones. We've had quizzes and we've had direct engagements by operators, essentially going to storm major schools. Of course, we know why we cannot do that anymore under the COVID situation, but that's why we have shifted to the digital technology approach. We've also had university debates and contests We have encouraged the writing of articles in journals. And very importantly, there's an ongoing process which has reached an advanced stage to inculcate capital market studies into the curriculum of all secondary schools across Nigeria. We think that will be the major game changer. Also, we partner with the Association of Capital Markets Academics, and I'm very happy that Prof. Uwaleke is with us today. We're partnering with them in terms of participating in initiatives by the association and also ongoing discussions with the Nigerian Universities Commission, again, to have more universities partnering with us to deliver programs for capital market studies. And of course, we have encouraged operators to sponsor videos, and these videos are also out there being disseminated in the social media. And of course, we also encourage independent activities by trade groups and operators. I will say, like I said earlier, that we have the capital market trade points themselves, the exchanges themselves, FMDQ, the Nigeria Stock Exchange, they are very active in pushing out the literacy knowledge and base. And we've brought them all into the committee so that we're working together and facing the same direction.
Well, I'm glad that, all the various exchanges and market players are working together to achieve this. But then we didn't see much of these awareness campaigns last year. Of course, I'm sure that was due to the COVID-19 pandemic. So what challenges, are faced by your committee in the task of increasing the rate of market literacy? And do you still see the 40% target contained in the market master plan achievable?
Thank you. So let me start with your second question. I believe that the 40% target is achievable as at 2025. And the main reason that I think it's achievable is because the whole world is learning new methods. And I think that COVID-19 essentially and the restrictions of mobility have forced all of us to deploy new ways to disseminate information, to reach our clients. And what is going to happen is I foresee an acceleration of the financial inclusion drive, simply because we are all going to be compelled to leverage technology like never before. And what the capital market will embrace, and we are advocating, is that the capital market will embrace the same kind of game-changing solutions that have been deployed in the money markets and specifically in payment solutions. So the fintech initiatives have to be embraced by the capital market and, taken to the excluded and to the underserved. So I think it is achievable. I think you're going to see ramped up awareness in the next few years. I also, to speak to the challenges, the restricted mobility has been a challenge. Funding is always a challenge. Funding is especially a challenge when you're going through a recession. We've had 2 recessions in the last 5 years, and operators many times and investors are focused on what they look at as survival first before they invest in the future. And we have to keep reminding them that this is actually enlightened self-interest. When we put money into creating awareness, we're ultimately creating a market for ourselves. So it's not charity, it's enlightened self-interest. Of course, there will be naturally some resistance because of the reasons that I have mentioned. Thank you.
All right, so please hold your thoughts then. Prof, please hold on. We'll take a quick break and this program continue when we return in a moment. Please stay with us. Welcome back and thanks for staying with us on the program. The Chief Executive Officer of Emerging Africa Capital, who also doubles as the chairperson of the Capital Market Literacy Committee, that's Mrs. Toyin Sonny, and Professor Uche Uwaleke, a professor of capital markets and the president of Capital Markets Academics of Nigeria, are still with us on the program. Now, Prof, I'd just like to kick this off with you. Unlike in many emerging economies, including South Africa, retail investor base is really low in Nigeria. Now, this has been attributed partly to low market literacy. Now, what's the link between literacy rate and capital market development?
Okay, Edidio, let me say that the link is direct. It's quite direct. And there's no doubt that you have a strong correlation between, market literacy and retail, investor base. It is for good reason that you have a higher, retail investor base in places like Malaysia and South Africa relative to Nigeria, again, because of the high, capital market literacy rate. In Nigeria, for example, it's put at 2%. Retail investor base is put at 2%. In Malaysia, 9%. In South Africa, that you mentioned, about 15%. Now, if you take the case of Malaysia, for example, they have leveraged the demographics in that country, just as we have in Nigeria. Of course, we have in Nigeria, the demographics emphasize a youthful population. But sadly, what we have in our case is a situation where the level of awareness of capital markets is even more among the elderly, among the senior citizens. It's the senior citizens that know more about the capital market than the youth. Okay, so that is why you have this this disproportion. And I'm also sure by the time you look at the distribution of these retail investors in the market, you also find that there are more, tilting towards the elderly. Malaysia implemented, it might interest you to know, Didier, that Malaysia implemented a second capital market development plan between 2011 and 2020. And within that period, the retail investor base, shot up by as much as 36%. And in my search to know why that happened, one of the things I found was that the Malaysian authority, the Bursa Malaysia, implemented initiatives that targeted, university students. And the consequence was that, we saw a good number of them, entering the market, and that increased the retail investor base, such that in the CDS account of Malaysia, that's the Central Depository System account holders, is now more of the youth, those below 35 years of age. So it's that kind of demographics that I think we should also leverage here in Nigeria. If you talk about our universities, for example, our universities, our tertiary institutions, have populations that are quite huge relative to these other countries that I've mentioned. Take the university system, for example. As of July 2020, we had about 172 universities, in this country, 79 private, 42% of them female, in terms of number of students, 58 male. Total university enrollments as of that July was 2 million. About 2 million students in Nigerian universities, and that's universities alone. By the time you add polytechnics, you add colleges of education and other tertiary institutions, you're looking at 5 million students. So this is a very huge potential, a very huge captive market, for the capital market. If we can target to get a fraction of that, a significant fraction of that, into the capital market, into the financial market, in general, that will go a long way in boosting not just the market, but of course economic development. And one thing that Mrs. Tony said, which I want to buttress, is the idea of leveraging technology. Let me also say that I agree with her. Given what her committee is doing, the laudable things her committee is doing, I have no doubt that that target will be met. The capital market literacy plan, is targeting moving the retail investor base from 4.7 million, as of 2015, according to their record, to over 44 million by 2025, moving from 16% to over 40%. And I think that is achievable. But again, that's achievable if they can leverage it, if technology is continuously leveraged. And what quickly comes to my mind when I talk about leveraging technology is the Kenya case. You find in Kenya, for example, a typical student in Kenya can invest using his or her mobile. There is this project in Kenya that was supported by the World Bank, the mobile Treasury Direct, in Kenya. And it was all about using your mobile phone to invest in government securities. In this country today, one of the challenges we are having, the government has even tried to encourage the savings culture by introducing a savings bond, FGN savings bond. With 5,000 naira minimum, you can invest in FGN savings bond. But we don't have the critical mass, invested in that instrument. And that's partly due to awareness, and also partly due to the fact that we are not leveraging technology. People should be able to use mobile phones to make such investments. In Kenya, for example, whether or not you have a bank account, you can do that. All they have done is to collaborate with mobile networks. All the mobile networks, once you subscribe, you have an electronic an account with the mobile network, and it helps you to make investment. It helps you to receive your coupon and they receive the principal payment.
Prof,
so these are the kinds of things we should be looking at here.
I totally agree with you in leveraging technology, but I'd like to bring in Mrs. Sonny here. Your task is, without doubt, not an easy one. So what level of support do you receive from regulators and market operators?
Thank you. It's a good time to admit that we are getting significant support. First of all, from the apex regulator of the capital market, which is the Securities and Exchange Commission. The Securities and Exchange Commission set up this committee in the first place. The SEC also is the one that put up the 10-year capital market master plan under which this work is being done. Also, the committee provides the secretariat, or the SEC provides the secretariat for our committee and provides all the administrative support we require. They are represented actively on the committee and collaborate with us to implement a lot of our activities. Beyond that, I will also say that the Central Bank of Nigeria has been driving the financial literacy message. And one of the things that I mentioned earlier is that we have recognized that you cannot tackle capital market literacy without tackling financial literacy. And let me bring that also up to a point that I should have made earlier when you talked about the challenges we're facing, which is illiteracy itself is a challenge. So again, tackling illiteracy in general is a key initiative or is a key prerequisite to having our work done. So we have partnered, like I said, with the NERDC, which is the national agency responsible for the development of secondary school curricula across Nigeria. So it is a collaborative effort. It's not something we're doing by ourselves. Operators have also been very supportive. All the funding that we're deploying from our activities so far have been raised by all the stakeholders in the market, which is the SEC and all the operators, the trade groups, working through their trade groups. And of course, the work of the committee itself is being done by volunteers that have been recommended to the committee by the various trade groups, representing all the different groups. And of course, the exchanges, the capital trade points, it is a hand-in-glove collaboration between the stakeholders. So we have received significant support. There's always room for more. Always room for more, and we ask for more.
Well, it's great to know that, but it's also interesting to know that a woman is heading the Capital Market Literacy Committee. Now, the world will be marking the International Women's Day on Monday, March the 8th. So how concerned are you that not a significant number of women are participants in the capital market in the country? And what is your committee doing about this? I'd just like to get a response in 1 minute before we run out of time.
All right. So, yes, I am concerned. I am concerned that women are not yet at the level of inclusion that we should be in the entire financial services and not just in capital markets. And we are encouraging all the trade groups, specifically the Funds Management Association of Nigeria, to develop products that are targeting female investors. And many are coming. At Emerging Africa, we have launched a Balanced Diversity Fund, which is targeting companies that have significant diversity in management and leadership. So there's work going on. We will do more. And that's what I can say in 1 minute now. Thank you.
All right, Mrs. Sonny, thank you so much for your input on the program. And Professor, also thank you for sharing your thoughts with us on the program. We've been speaking to Toyin Sonny, the chairperson of Capital Market Literacy Committee, and Professor Uche Waleke, the president of Capital Market Academics of Nigeria. Well, that is on Capital Market tonight. Thank you for watching. I'm Edidio Ngiwang.